And we are back. We are live for another 75 minutes where we are going to do some coding and hopefully get to the moon. We'll give you a few more housekeeping items in just a moment, but before we begin, we always start with our land acknowledgement. Even though we're going to the moon today, we want to stop and think about this world that we are on and the people that came here before us. I'm based in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and just really thankful to be on these rich lands, Treaty 7 territory. But take a moment and just think about those that came before you before we begin. So I mentioned I'm from Calgary. My name is Michelle Armstrong. I am one of the co-founders of the Cobblestone Collective. We have the great pleasure to be able to work alongside Minecraft. And today we have a great lesson for all of you. Thank you to Minecraft Education, of course, for putting together this amazing world alongside NASA and for making this lesson free to all of you. We've got one little word of warning before we start. Teachers, if you've ever been a part of our lesson, you know we get a little bit excited. Sometimes we go a bit fast. If at any point you need to pause just to get your students caught up, you can do that. And of course, the replay will be available after the fact. Students, we want to hear from you. So we have a way for you to communicate with us. You will notice on the screen, there are a couple of links. You choose whichever one you like. The first one's a bit shorter. Go into a brand new tab on your device. Type in the cc.page/Minecraft. If that works, awesome. It takes you to a Microsoft form. Let us know your name and were you with us last week when we built a rocket ship? Let us know in the form, what's your name? And let us know if you were with us last week. If that first link does not work, that second one should work for you. So I'll leave those on the screen just for a second. We're going to have that as a banner as well. But hey, I'm not alone. I have my two co-pilots with me again. We have Darren Malte and Dan Noble coming to join us right now. Well, hello, gentlemen. Darren, give us a quick lowdown. Who are you? Where are you coming from? All that good stuff.
I'm in Amiskwaciwâskagan, which is Edmonton. And yeah, I code with students all the time. I work with about 13,000 teachers and students here in Black Gold, where we do coding, we do Minecraft, we do all kinds of fun things. So yeah, I'm really excited to be doing this today and joining the expert, the amazing Dan Noble, who's joining us from wee Scotland, and he's here coding with us. Hi, Dan.
Oh, look at that. Dan owes us another quarter. Did you guys know that Dan has to pay a quarter to all of us for being muted? Dan, goodness me, pay up.
I'm out of quarters now. I'll send you 20p. That'll be about the equivalent of the 2 quarters. So yeah, hi everyone. My name's Dan Noble. I am part of the awesome extended team here at the Cobblestone Collective, and I am a Minecraft consultant, Minecraft education consultant. So my career is mostly content building and workshops like this one, and teacher PD and all sorts of fun things like that. And I am currently coming to you from Dumfries, Scotland.
Yeah, and that's one thing I think is really important about today. If you're thinking, well, you know, I'd kind of like to work for NASA. I'm interested in space. Well, guess what? We have Martin, who's going to just tell you the path to take. Or maybe you're totally into Minecraft. Guess what? That could be your job. Like, Dan does that. That's his job, building, creating Minecraft content. So there are some great jobs out there, and it doesn't feel like work if you have to do the thing that you're passionate about, right?
Exactly. Spoiler alert. Yes, Martin is back. We're going to get to him in just a second, but we got to give some shout outs, you guys. Northland Online School is back again. I told you guys I'd give a special shout out to you. That's here in Alberta. But Emma's here. Emmett, Denzel, Zoe, Simon, Andy, Hannah, Arnav, Carter, Miles, Mila. Whoa, Mrs. Chow's class is here. Tristan and Calvin are here. A bunch of you were with us last week. We are thrilled to have you back today. You are about to meet our guest speaker. If you were here last week, you met him last week, but let's bring in Martin, who is back with us again. Martin, we are thrilled to have you back. We enjoyed learning from you last week. Students, if you have not met Martin yet, he's going to tell you just a tiny bit about him. And then if you have any questions for Martin, you need to post those in the form. But Martin, tell us just a little bit about you. What do you do with NASA?
Well, greetings, Minecraft fans and future space geeks. I am a technical writer for the Space Launch System program at NASA Marshall Space Flight Center in lovely Huntsville, Alabama in the U.S. I help by writing technical papers and just assisting with overall communications for the program. The Space Launch System is the rocket that you're building on Minecraft that is going to take humans back to the moon to explore, which is pretty exciting. And I'll be glad to tell you more. If you've got questions, just let me know. I think you're going to maybe talk a little bit today, concentrating on the Orion spacecraft, which is the crew spacecraft. And so I am ready to answer questions about the real thing there. It's pretty exciting. Artemis has already begun with the launch of Artemis 1 last November, and we'll be working on Artemis 2 coming up in about next year. So
that's what's fascinating, right? This isn't something long distance in the future. This isn't decade. This is next year. We have another launch, and then the year after, we'll be returning to the moon. It's unbelievable.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
you know what?
You kids are part of, I mean, you're actually building it along with NASA, sort of. So it's kind of exciting to do that. I remember when I was a kid, I followed along by cutting a rocket out of cardboard paper and snapping the stages off as it went up. Things have improved markedly since then.
So incredibly cool. Well, so great to have you here, Martin. Dan and Darren, I know you guys are going to take us through some coding inside of Minecraft. I'm going to head out and watch you guys from backstage, but I know you guys are going to have a ton of fun with that. I think I'll turn you over to your screen, Dan, where you guys are going to give some walkthroughs, and I will say goodbye for now and have so much fun coding. Take it away.
Right. Thanks, Michelle. Okay, so here we are. We're logged into Minecraft and we're ready to go. I've got my my astronaut suit on, and
Probably a good idea. Hey, Dan.
Absolutely.
Change our skin. I know I changed mine to an astronaut. I'm ready to go.
Well, if I'm going to be operating the vacuum of space, I definitely need to have some sort of protective covering for myself there. So to get started, we are going to click on New and Featured. And once we're in New and Featured, we are going to click on Artemis Return to the Moon. So just go back, make sure that we've got that. We're clicking on New and Featured. And we are going to click on Artemis Return to the Moon. Last week we did the Artemis rocket build. This week we are clicking on Artemis Return to the Moon. Once you've clicked on that tile, you're going to click Create World. It may take a few seconds. I am working from a gaming rig, so it's a little bit more snappy than some of the computers that you may be using.
On your Chromebook, you
at
might
home or
see
school.
it's loading resources, a certain amount of megabytes out of 11 or whatever that package is, which is pretty great. So last time we were on Earth creating the rocket, building the rocket, and now we're on the Orion craft, and we're going to be going to the moon. And I see, Martin, you have a picture behind you.
That is indeed. That's a picture of the Orion spacecraft.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a student of the space program, it looks a lot like the old Apollo spacecraft from the 60s and 70s, but it's about 40% larger and holds four crew instead of 3. And it's been upgraded in all sorts of ways that you can't immediately see.
Yeah, much better Wi-Fi. They got the little pizza cooker in there. They got
cup holders, the whole thing.
That was the big thing. Cup holders on Apollo. They were yeah, awesome.
All right. So once we are in our world here, it's going to ask us just quickly a question. Capcom's asking us to optimize for the device that you're using. So if you're using an iPad, you're going to use touch controls, or if you're using an Android handheld device, you're going to use touch controls. If you're using a Chromebook or a CloudBook or a traditional Windows PC, you're going to click on keyboard. And for our selection today in terms of what coding we're going to be using block coding today. We'll click block coding. And it's just asking us to confirm here. Are you sure you want to use block coding? Yes, I'm sure.
Awesome.
Okay, so we have some information here, but we're just going to click next right now. And we're going to click got it.
So when it's talking about multiplayer, I know the first time through, you're gonna have a couple chances to go through the missions, and we are going into just the solo missions for now. We might have time to do a multiplayer. Don't feel like you have to go in multiplayer. Just let's do a single solo player mission. Martin, Brandon has a question. Is there a certain age limit to be an astronaut? Do you have to be 21, or is there a junior program?
I don't. I'll research that for you and check. You don't really have. I don't think you have to be a certain age, but you do have to have, like, say, maybe it could be an advanced degree. You don't have. Used to, you had to be a test pilot, military test pilot, and that is not true anymore. Since the space shuttle program, we have scientist astronauts with science degrees, and engineers with engineering degrees. So, and a good many of the astronauts have multiple advanced degrees. They are so smart.
Oh, wow.
So that's it's kind of more experience based than age based.
Awesome. Thanks for your question, Brandon. Okay, so Dan, we are going to go for launch here. So we're going to press C.
Okay, I'm pressing C on my keyboard, and I'm going to make sure that I read all the directions here, because one of my big failings when it comes to coding is not always necessarily reading all of the instructions. And I'm just causing trouble for myself down the line. Want to make sure that we read all of our instructions. And we're just going to drag our code here into the on start block, nest that in there, and then we're going to click the big green button at the bottom right corner to start. So we are go for launch.
Yeah. And here we are launching. I'm launching on my screen as well. I'm playing along. So Martin, who gets to name these missions and the rockets, and what's that process like? Is it a committee, or do you have to submit some of the names, or what?
I think overall, NASA will come up with the name of the program. Yeah. For instance, the previous moon program was called Apollo, after a Greek god of the sun. Artemis is the name of this program, and it's named after Apollo's twin sister Artemis, who was the goddess of the moon. So it's entirely appropriate that it's named Artemis. And the spacecraft, the missions are all like Artemis 1, 2, 3, because they are 1, 2, 3. But Orion is named after a constellation, Orion. Space Launch System was named as it's a very technical name. It doesn't have any fancy Greek name, but it's basically very descriptive of what it does. So maybe we'll get a name in the future. Who knows? Maybe we need to ask ask these guys here what the name should be or something.
Yeah. One of my friends got to name an asteroid or a comet. Yeah. So you're here now. You're in the Orion, right, Dan? You're in there. It's telling you about.
That's
G4.
Right. I'm in the Orion. So let's see here. Yeah. So astronauts can feel up to 6 Gs of force during liftoff, which is quite a lot. So G-force is the measurement of acceleration. G equals gravity. So on Earth we have 1 G. So can you imagine feeling your whole body 6 times heavier during launch?
That's so
pretty
cool.
Crazy. So let's.
A lot of it's automated, guys. On the way uphill for the 8 minutes ride to orbit, a lot of it is automated so that they don't have to do very much. So it's like autopilot.
Yeah, when you're being shaken like that, you probably don't want to be doing too much. Let us know, students, if you have launched, if you're in Orion and you're ready to do some coding. I think we're going to start our mission. I've got mine up.
Okay, so we can show you how to use the console. So we do want to just quickly see how our console on the Orion works, because this is significantly more intricate and interesting than we would have seen in some previous Minecraft worlds. This is very unique, I should say. So let's click yes. So we're going to expand our console. Look left and right to interact with the blinking button to begin. Okay, so I've got it. So we can see all the astronauts in our capsule. Here we've got 4 of us sitting in
So cool.
Orion. So there's our blinking light. So I'm going to left click on that. And that brings our console out in front of us.
That is so real. I mean, and it looks like the real Orion console, used to back in the day of the previous moon program, it all used to be dials and gauges. And now it's a quote glass cockpit,
Wow.
with like video screens, kind of like what you've got.
Oh, so this is very close to what I would actually see if I were sitting in Orion, Martin.
Yeah.
This is, oh wow. So they've done a really good job of duplicating the interior of this spacecraft in Minecraft. It's amazing.
Martin, have you been able to go on some of the previous rockets that are in storage or that are on display at NASA?
Oh, I have not. I have been able to visit some of the space shuttles, look to what through this museum, that kind of thing. But I have never been in one. I was able to watch some of the parts for space launch system as they were building it, and it's just you feel like an ant when you're standing beside that.
Oh wow.
Okay, so our panels are out. We can interact with them. So I'm going to click next. So we're going to interact with another blinking button. So got that. So there's our blinking button here off to the left, little headset. So I'm going to left click on that. So this is our fidget screen. You can use this for non-mission critical activities, such as checking your email, turning your overhead light off and on, or chatting with me at Capcom.
I'm over here just clicking the light on and off about 100 times. I'm that student. I'll check my mail.
So we're going to begin by interacting with one of the other blinking lights on the screen. So, okay, we now have our missions up on our right-hand side here. So off to the left, we have a headset. We've got our email. We've got a hint button, I think. Let's click on that and just, that puts that away. And, I think this is an Easter egg. Oh wow! There's a dolphin chasing a fish through space.
Where was that? Where did you click? Where'd you click to get that? I did.
Okay, I gotta show you that again. So I clicked this little question mark button. I was like, "What's that for?" And I clicked it, and I've got a dolphin.
Oh, yeah. And
that reminds me of a game from many years ago that I used to play called Space Quest, and there was an escape capsule that you had to get into, and there was a do not press button. So. What would you do? You'd press the do not press button.
Yeah. I like that Carter says he's surprised it's not 10 Gs because some military planes hit 10 Gs just when you're doing maneuvers and do some of the things that they're doing.
So on the right hand side of our screen here, we have our missions. So we're going to do some single player missions here. So I'm going to click the first one here. So the objective of this mission is to get as many possible points as possible before your splashdown on Earth. So this is a timed timed activity. There's a number of timed activities that we can fit in. The end of that, we will splash down. And so the icon shows you how many points we get.
We're going to try to do as many as we can in the time, and we'll talk about them. But don't feel like you have to do every single one. We can splash down, and then we can try it all again. And Dan and I might try some other things together later on. But I'm going to jump in here. Which one are you doing, Dan?
So I'm going to do the first one, which is with the Mars helicopter.
Oh, yours is different than mine. I've got a different
So
order.
I think there are different orders, and I think there'll be different ones that show up. And there's quite a few in here as well. I'm gonna click next here. So some of them are single, some of them are multiplayer capable. Below the main screen is your main switch. So when we're ready, we can flip and toggle that main switch, and it will blink for us too. So I'm going to click got it. So there it is in front of me. I've selected this one here, and I'm going to click that switch in front of me.
And that's going to start your timer, I believe, and then you're going to see Orion do its orbit. Ooh, Mars Recon.
So I have to capture an image of the potential Mars landing spot. New data has revealed possible landing spots for future missions on Mars. The Ingenuity Mars helicopter Ginny is at our disposal. So we're going to navigate Ginny. Okay, got it. Okay, so we need to use our coding module here. So we're going to press C. So what I'm going to do, what I like to do, is I kind of move my puzzle over to one side of the screen so that when I press C, my coding agent and workspace is over at the other side. So I can see what I'm doing while I'm lining up that code. So we are going to navigate the agent using the rover move block to the green X. Okay, so Ingenuity, I'm going to drag this piece over here, and I need to move Ingenuity over 1, 2, 3. And I need to move to the right.
Awesome. Now you could duplicate that or drag a new one out, right? Could you?
That's right.
Yeah.
So I can right click on this. And again, if you're using a Chromebook and you do not have a right click, you do. It's 2 fingers, a snake bite, as we call it, on your touchpad will do your right click. So I can duplicate this, drops it into my workspace here. So I'm just going to left click and drag that up and nest it inside my OnStart code. I have to change this here because I have to go down now. I have to go down 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to change it to down there. And I said 4, correct?
You betcha.
Okay. So I'm going to change that number to 4 now.
And I'm going to race you down. I'm going to start one over here. I'm going to do one that's very similar. I'm hitting my confirm switch. Students, you can let us know if you started coding.
Okay. So I've also got to take a picture. So I've dragged that down. So it'll go over 3, go down 4, land here, and take a picture for my Perseverance rover. I'm going to click run. I'm going to click that big green button on the bottom. And it's landed, and it's taken a picture of the Martian surface. So they're going to analyze the pictures for its potential as a landing site. I do like that they've mixed up in here. They've mixed up some Mars missions as well as just lunar missions as well. Okay.
And that's kind of Artemis's lunar exploration. But one of the goals of Artemis, besides lunar exploration, is to eventually get ready and test the technologies for sending people to Mars. So you are right on track with that.
Awesome. Meanwhile, I'm collecting space debris.
I'm very excited for all the Artemis lunar missions that are coming up, but I'm excited as well for that the potential, that building to doing Mars missions, because I've been following the Mars missions and the lunar missions all my life, and from Viking up until the current day with Curiosity and Perseverance. So let's click on another mission here, because we're still being timed, even though I'm just selecting an X mission. We're still timed here. So I'm going to click on this one here. Looks like mining on the moon. I'm going to click my start button. Oh, so this is asteroid mining. Okay. Collect a mineral sample from the asteroid.
Is that going to be one of the things, Martin, collecting samples from the moon and possibly getting them back to Earth?
Absolutely. They will have a specific amount of pounds of samples that they can carry. And so when they land, they will collect several pounds of samples and bring them back to Earth for analysis, just like they did with Apollo. So that's going to be very interesting. And there's actually discussion of an asteroid mission to bring samples back from an asteroid.
Oh, that's so cool.
I don't know if you guys saw that there was a Chinese lander that came back, and they have actually discovered water and little tiny beads on the lunar surface. Naturally occurring beads, not something from a jewelry store.
Nice. Oh, I like this mission. Maybe Michelle can throw. I'm doing aurora photography.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you get those.
I just want you guys to know how easy you've got it. Like the Mars mission, or maybe an asteroid mission out beyond Jupiter. Like it takes anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes for a signal or a command to get from Earth to Mars, depending on where those planets are in the solar system. So doing it real time, you guys got it easy.
Gee, I don't imagine you get aurora down in Alabama.
No, not many. Usually that's fireworks show on the 4th of July. That's the closest we get.
Yeah, we've been having amazing shows here in Alberta the last little while.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've been apparently we've been having auroras quite late in the evening here in Scotland as well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in Dumfries, every time there's supposed to be an aurora, it's either too late or it's been cloudy. So
Yeah.
I haven't actually been able to see it yet. Although when I lived in Ontario, we did occasionally see auroras down there too.
Awesome. Maybe Michelle can throw mine up because this one's really great. I like how they made this the world here.
Okay,
Something
so
Dan could do.
I've got 3 lunar landing sites. Mark 3 lunar landing sites. Okay. We found 13 places near the moon's south pole where we might be able to land safely. These places should be relatively flat, have good communication with Earth, and have lots of ice nearby. Because I think that's one of the goals of the Artemis program, Martin, is it to learn how to use lunar resources in situ, harvest
Exactly.
them and process them and use them for oxygen and water and so forth.
Right. There are multiple sites believed to contain water at the South Pole. And so the missions will be directed to those places, and it could be optional depending on any kind of constraints that they have. But right, I mean, if you can find water on the moon and collect it and pull that water out, you can turn that into anything from drinking water or even into rocket fuel.
There you go. There's my aurora photography for you, Dan.
Oh, very nice.
This is great.
Oh,
How
wow.
they did this.
That's amazing looking.
Yeah,
I love
that.
that.
Great.
Oh, it's incredible.
So let us know, students, have you seen the aurora? So I'm going to the grid and I'm taking pictures at different locations, and I'll see picture 1, picture 2, picture 3. Complete. I did it. Now, I'm not sure how much time we have left, Dan. I know we're just going around the moon on mine. I think you started a little bit sooner than, so let's check out where you are in your mission.
Okay, so I'm doing something kind of similar here. I'm trying to find 3 locations that are relatively flat but close to ice to land on. So let's see here. I picked D6. I picked F2. And I've picked G6. So they're all fairly close to ice. So I'm hoping that these actually satisfy the required conditions.
Uh-oh.
So green X's are good. Oh, no. Incomplete.
Dan.
Oh, no. Okay, so this is actually good that this has happened, because if you fail a mission, you don't get a retry, just like real life. Like, there's no do-over. It's just that one didn't work out. What did we learn from that experience? We have to try to pick a better site next time.
What did that depend on, Dan?
So it had to be close to ice deposits, and it had to be flat and safe to land in. So I suspect that perhaps I felt that they were all pretty close. So I've got re-entry in 1 minute. So I've run out of time. I won't be able to do any more missions. But I felt that it was close enough to the ice. So maybe one of the landing sites that I picked wasn't ideal.
Once again, you've got a pretty realistic simulation there, because there's several criteria for where they can land on the moon and the conditions. For instance, they need visibility. They need light there to see where they're going to go land. So that can be a determining factor. So
I think you're right, Martin. I think that was maybe the crux of it there. I don't think I'd selected one that had a clear line of sight and communication. Maybe it was too dark.
Oh.
That is scary realistic.
Yeah. And where is our, I think you said it last time, but I can't remember it. It's on the dark side. Is it by the
It's actually the South Pole.
South Pole. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. All the Apollo missions in the 60s and 70s were along the equator because it took less fuel to land on the equator, and then you got an advantage at launch of launching in the direction that that you were going.
Oh,
so
here we go. We have splashdown. That's so great. Are all those splashdowns in the same area of the Pacific, or it's just somewhere in the Pacific, like near Hawaii? Like, where is it exactly that
they target an area that is west, generally west of San Diego, or east of San Diego, no, west of San Diego,
Yeah.
and east of obviously the Hawaiian Islands. And
Nice
our
work, Dan.
partner, the U.S. Navy, picks us up.
That's pretty great. That's got to be a pretty awesome feeling.
Okay.
All right, we'd
So
love
we've
to hear.
completed our first one, so we can try that again because there's a lot more missions to do. So I'm gonna click replay.
Yeah, that was one time through.
I'm gonna do blocks again. Got it.
Awesome. Let us know. Did you complete a mission? Maybe pause if you splashed down. Come back, talk to us again. If you have more questions for Martin, let us know. Dan's launching one more time.
Very cool. And they astronauts they deliberately control the G forces on launch so that they never get more than about 2.5 or 3.5 Gs. So they can still operate in the capsule if they need to. That trajectory looks very real, fellas. That's pretty much like our actual trajectory to the moon, once around Earth and then headed toward the moon.
That's really cool. And so does it kind of slingshot, use some of the gravity of the moon to pick up momentum as it's heading back to Earth?
They do they pick up speed around Earth. They launch in an elliptical orbit, which is a big sort of squished oval, and they fire the engines when it's at the lowest, closest to Earth, so that it sort of slingshots it out of Earth toward the moon.
Sweet.
Now, just a question for you, Martin. So I know Artemis 2 is going to be sort of a Apollo 8 style mission where they're doing a circuit around the moon and then coming back. Now, are they doing a free return trajectory? They're just going around and looping about and coming back? Or will they be going out, orbiting several times and then coming back?
They will not enter lunar orbit as you and I are familiar with it, where they will slow down enough to go into orbit. It's an exotic orbit that has a free return trajectory associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
So if they have to, they can just loop around and come back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah, that's interesting. That's and that was, I think that was first used with Apollo 13. If I remember correctly.
I don't remember exactly. You may be the space buff king for this session. I mean, it's kind of interesting to know you did the last mission through splashdown. I mean, to get to the moon, you have to get into Earth orbit, which is about 17,500 miles an hour. Then you have to go faster to get out of Earth orbit to the moon, which is about 23 or 24,000 miles an hour, or really 25,000. All that speed you built up has to be bled off when you come back to Earth. And so that's what Orion's heat shield is for. That heat shield, when they come back, it gets to about 5,000 degrees coming into the atmosphere. And it goes from about 25,000 miles per hour to about 20 miles an hour when the parachutes are out.
Wow.
That's wild. 5,000 makes you realize why we don't see a lot of large meteors and how big the ones that do create craters must have been when they first landed. There's a huge one. Isn't there a very large meteor crater in Arizona?
Meteor crater. It's a famous tourist site. It looks like a canyon. It's so big.
So big. And that wasn't even that large in context of some of these other things. So yeah, that atmosphere is crazy. So Dan, you're collecting some space debris. I imagine that's something you have to really consider. There's a whole orbit around Earth, right? Where some of the old satellites, they get lowered to where they circulate and then they finally go back down into space.
Yeah, I know there's been some sort of prototype missions being developed to potentially go up, connect with space debris and either pull it back down to the Earth or boost it into basically decommissioning orbits. So there's a lot of that going on right now. So
Yeah.
I'm going to try to get my agent to do, I guess, just that, is move in and collect some of this debris. So I've got my grid over at one side and I've got my coding workspace over at the other. So I'm going to move over by 2. I'm going to move down by 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I have to remember to add that collect debris block, because I actually played this one a couple of weeks ago and I forgot to add the collect debris. So I failed that mission. So then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's put in 6. And I'm going to collect debris. And then let's just click here, and I'm going to flip my window so I can see the other side here. So I should be here at that point, and I'm going to move 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to move agent move up by 3 and collect debris. So I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that I've done my math here. And I'm going to click that big green button to run it. Okay, got the first one, the second one, and I got the third one. Okay, I'm happy I completed the mission that time.
It kind of looks like Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Totally. I even like the animation of the debris they had. Their little satellite, little things.
Yeah, you guys, I mean, you could be there a long time in space, Dan, because, I mean, there's like 900,000 pieces of space debris in orbit just from, say, 1 to 10 centimeters. And I did do metric for you guys.
Thank you.
And like large debris, 10 centimeters or larger, there's like 34,000 of those. So there's a lot of debris, and anybody sending a satellite or a human spacecraft has to design for that, with layers of insulation or things like that to sort of absorb the blow so it doesn't puncture your spacecraft.
Yeah. And speaking of that, what is still on the moon? Maybe Dan or Mart would know. Like, we always see the flag that they planted there, but like, what else did they leave from those Apollo missions and other missions? Like, what did they leave on the moon? What's still there?
There's a ton of stuff up there, isn't there, Martin?
Yeah, there's descent stages for the lunar modules that were up there. They threw out the lunar EVA suits out there. There are tools. There's several scientific instruments they left on the moon. For years, they were measuring moonquakes on the surface of the moon. So there was, and there's lots of other stuff. Let me just say that.
Yeah, there's reflectors that they placed so that we could basically ping those locations on the moon with lasers to determine the exact distance between the Earth and the moon. And we've actually found that it's moving away from us. I think it was about an inch every year. The moon gets a little bit further away from us. So we've learned that by using those laser reflectors that the Apollo astronauts left behind. There's also Hasselblad cameras, really, really good cameras they left up there. I think
how many rovers were left up there, Dan? I know there's 2 rovers, 3 rovers?
2. So there was one for Apollo 17. There was one for Apollo 16. I think Apollo 15 was the first one. Was it Apollo 15 that was the first one that brought it? I'll have to check that. Can't remember if it was Apollo 15 or Apollo 16.
Yeah, if you can get up there, guys, you get a free car. How about that?
Yeah. The only bad news, Dan, is this has been timed the whole time we're talking. So
I know.
You might fail your mission because you're busy chatting, but that's great.
Okay.
I like this one better. The nachos. So this one's got nachos in space.
So we're going to be looking at pollution and determining some information here about our atmosphere. So let's press C to code. So I can see the pollution hovering over Western Europe there, and actually Scotland and most of the UK. We've got some out here and it looks above India, maybe in Central Asia, and we have some here over the Eastern United States. So we're going to try to do something with that. So let's flip our screen here.
Yeah.
So we're going to deploy CubeSats in that area to determine some information about that pollution. So we need to go to, that's B3. Oop, made a mistake there. And we need to deploy a CubeSat at E2.
And be careful, Dan, because last time you were doing this, you ruined our space pizza. I remember that. We didn't get to eat, which is pretty awesome.
All right, so let's click here and flip the window to see. This one is I2.
Fantastic.
Okay, let's run that, and hopefully that works out. Running code. Oh, I've done something wrong.
Dan. Yeah. Madame Carbonell's class and Miss Bruneau's classes, they were asking, Martin, when's the last time you went into space? And so we're trying to be clear. There's lots of people who work for NASA. Only I don't know what percentage of people who support these missions and create these missions get to go to space. It's not a huge number who are the actual astronauts who go out, right?
Right. There's like the astronaut corps is maybe 30 or 40 very smart people, way smarter than me. But there are thousands of people backing them up in NASA and in industry who design and build and test the hardware and put it all together, and do a number of different jobs in addition to science and engineering, accounting and business and all sorts of careers.
Yeah. But you've met a lot of those people. You get to work with a lot of those people. And I think last time we were asking about some of those individuals you met who were inspiring, and you had quite a list of people that you've interacted with, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've met Neil Armstrong, the first guy on the moon, Buzz Aldrin, the second person on the moon, a whole bunch of shuttle astronauts who are also, a good many of them are ex-military pilots, so kind of Top Gun type guys.
What does one say to Neil Armstrong when you what sort of small talk? That's what I was wondering. You're like, oh, so
how's it going, Neil? I mean,
yeah,
been to the moon lately?
Yeah, you got to get a good question, like, oh my gosh, and then you just like, so you like stuff?
Yeah, or be the 100 millionth person to ask. So, what was it like on the moon? And I'm sure he's tired of answering that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Dan,
so
you did it. You got another.
I've been. So what I just did here was I was recovering, and I did it just in time. I was planting seeds in lunar regolith, so lunar regolith or lunar dirt, and growing those plants. And Apollo scientists, as in the snippet here, actually did bring back a lot of lunar regolith. And they did experiment with growing plants in it. So we were just sort of reproducing that there. And so I think, again, that's one of the potential things that we might be doing on the moon later in this decade, is trying to farm or grow some of our own food using existing resources on the moon, including lunar regolith, of which there's plenty.
Yeah, that's actually
so. Martin, did you see which lunar rover, which Apollo mission the lunar rover was first launched on? Was that 15 or 16?
You win the quarter win your quarterback. You were correct. 3 rovers were on the moon. One on Apollo 15 with David Scott and Jim Irwin. One on Apollo 16 with John Young and Charlie Duke, and one on Apollo 17 with Gene Cernan and Harrison Schmitt, who was actually the first scientist astronaut.
All right. That's awesome. Okay, so I think we have some time left here. Should we try to do a multiplayer one there?
I'm worried about my computer crashing, but I do want to try it.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to go keyboard here. I'm going to click blocks, and I'm going to click yes. Next. And just so you're aware, there are instructions there on how to do the multiplayer. We're not going to read through them. We're just going to go through it right now. Got it. So I'm going to host that out, Darren.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm going to join you. Just give me a sec.
Oh, that's a new one.
Oh, we have a great question from Carter.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard in like 2 decades there'll be a small town or even a city on the moon. What do you think about that? Do you think it'll happen? One of the things we talked about is the gateway, right, Martin, which is one of the goals.
Correct. Yeah, that's NASA is working now on something called a gateway, which is kind of like another word for space station that'll be up there. And that will be sort of like a way station where spacecraft from Earth will come and dock to the gateway, and will meet maybe lunar landers that are leaving from the gateway to go down to the moon and come back up. So that you have sort of a permanent presence at the moon, even between missions and coming and going, where maybe you're doing experiments. Maybe you've brought back some lunar regolith and you're growing a lunar salad in the gateway or something like that.
That's really cool. That's one thing that I don't know if teachers know that you can actually get regolith or imitation regolith to grow things in your science classes.
Oh,
So
wow.
you can see, I know one of my friends does that in her science class, and that's something the students always really love.
Yeah, I
So
mean, they
Darren, it
actually
doesn't
use
look
it.
like I'm going to be able to host there. So sorry, Martin.
No.
I think I'm just going to try some other single player missions.
Yeah. And if teachers, if they're at the point where they might want to try some of those, you just have to make sure that everyone is waiting in space before you launch. That's the one really important thing with any of these multiplayer tips.
Unless you wanted to try to host it from your side. Could you try hosting it from your side? And we'll see if that that
Yeah, I
flies.
could. Yeah, for sure.
And again, that's kind of the multiplayer game sounds kind of similar to what we're going to eventually do. You may launch crew on one rocket, and then maybe you launch a giant lander on another rocket, and they have to go meet at the moon, for instance, at Gateway. And you got to coordinate that. They've got to launch at the right times in order to both get there. So in that sense, it sounds pretty realistic.
And I've given you an account there if you want to sign out of that. And I'm going to try hosting with my account if that's cool.
Okay. All right, let's try that.
We'll try to get it going. I'm creating my world.
Okay.
I'm not sharing my screen right now because it broke my whole system but I'm glad yours is working. So we'll see if it works on your end.
All right, we'll give it a go.
We'll give it a go. We're not scared. Students, let us know. Martin's here. There's not very often you get to talk to someone like Martin. So give us your questions. Let us know how you're doing and what you created.
You know,
Actually, I have a question, Martin, for you. So,
Stump the
the
chump.
the Apollo service module was running off of, if I remember correctly, fuel cell technology for most of their missions, right?
Sure.
And I think the shuttle used a lot of fuel cell technology as well. So they weren't deploying solar panels; they were using this fuel cell technology. And I note that Orion has solar panels. So is the Orion system only electricity supplied through solar panels, or do they also have some fuel cell technology on board that spacecraft?
I'm not totally sure about if they have fuel cells. Primarily, they are running on solar arrays so that they can have longer missions. You know, for instance, whereas the Apollo spacecraft could support 3 crew for like 14 days, Orion's going to be able to support 4 crew for 21 days, basically to have longer missions. So that's an improvement to have those solar panels on there.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, at the same time, you also have to design your missions so that you're in a position for those arrays to get sunlight to keep your spacecraft recharged.
Mm-hmm. So they'll they'll be behind the moon at certain points where they'll be presumably running off of battery power that's
Right.
been charged from those solar panels. I've forgotten how long the Apollo missions were behind that dark side. How long? I mean, I'm assuming Orion will be around behind the moon for similar amounts of time during lunar night. So, how long would they be in that darkened part of the orbit?
I think they're actually still working on the details of those orbits, and I don't know for sure is the bottom line answer on that.
Okay.
But they will be able to sustain through those orbits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it'll depend on what their altitude is. If they're doing quite a large orbit,
if you're very far from the moon,
yeah.
I mean, you won't be occluded, which is the fancy word for blocked.
Yeah.
For very long.
But if you're closer, you might be traveling faster, but you're going to be in that darkness for potentially a longer period of time.
Right. I think all your folks are pretty savvy computer guys, and so it's kind of interesting. I was looking here. Apollo had like a single flight computer. Orion basically has 4, and whereas just one of Orion's computers is only 75% of the weight of the computer on Apollo and has 128,000 times more memory
Wow.
and is 20,000 times faster than the Apollo computers.
Oh, I bet.
And I'm sure you guys have heard the old comparison, and it's true that the lunar module from the Apollo program had less computing power than your cell phone.
Yeah. One question that we had from Miss Johnson, the regolith you can get from Let's Talk Science, where they can send you science kits where you can try growing in Martian soil. So Let's Talk Science, if you Google that. And Hatim has a great question, Martin. When will civilians like us be able to go to the moon?
I just saw that. Right now, NASA is really sort of official government exploration, kind of opening the door for future commercial exploration or commercial travel, which is where you'll begin starting to see just maybe your average person go to the deep space or the moon. I believe there is a program now where there's maybe a Japanese artist who's got plans to ride a spacecraft around the moon. That may be SpaceX that's doing that. But it's going to be probably a few years, maybe not as long as you think, but it will be some time before it's like airline type flights. Right now, it's still pretty expensive, and you still have to kind of pass some minimum physical requirements.
Yeah. And so Heath is asking about the types of fuel. Maybe if you do the first mission, it really talks a lot more about the fuel and all that sort of stuff. So there's two types of fuel that's going on with rocket launches, right? We got the solid and liquid. What are those fuels exactly?
For the solids, it's liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen.
Wow.
Something like minus, which is what are those primary elements of? H2O, water. And they're kept at like minus 600 something degrees Fahrenheit. Sorry, I had to convert back. But you combine those, and what you see coming out of those engines at the bottom of SLS is water vapor, really, really hot water vapor. So that's pretty environmentally clean. The boosters are a solid fuel, and it's like aluminum powder in a binder that very much like a firework you would fire off in your backyard. It has an igniter in the top of it. You fire that, it shoots down the length of the booster, and the whole booster ignites.
That's wild and a little bit scary.
So I'm doing this lunar surface one again with the lunar topography. So I'm trying to pick safe landing sites that are close to ice. So just so that I get both you, Martin, and you, Dan, your opinion on this. I've selected 3 sites, and I mean that this is what we would potentially do if this was a NASA mission. You'd get a bunch of your chief scientists together, and you'd discuss the benefits and potential detractions of certain landing sites before you proceeded to say, yeah, this mission's going to this specific place. So
yeah, you're exactly right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. So I've selected D5, F5, and H1. Or sorry, actually, you know what? I should change that to H2. I think H2 looks better. Or sorry, no, it's H1. There's a 0 in there, right? So H1 is a good location, I think. So what do you think about that? D5, F5, and H1.
And like NASA, every mission, they'll have their priorities for all the sites and when they go on which mission, but they'll probably have 3 sites on each mission that will be optional depending on which one they can get to, depending on how, what they're in position for and how it's lit and that kind of thing. So very realistic, Dan. I think maybe you need to apply for the astronaut corps.
I'm not sure I'm fit enough. My eyesight's nowhere near what it needs to be, I think. That's actually a good question, Martin. Like, so I know that the requirements for entering the astronaut corps are, at least historically, have been quite tight. So you needed to have 20/20 vision or better, I think, if I remember correctly.
Dan,
my vision.
You need to read the instructions, though.
Using your grid, mark your 3 locations, mark location.
That have ice and are flat. Are you doing the right ones for sure?
Oh, so not next to them, but actually bang on them. Okay. So let's go with C5. I read that, but I think I interpreted it wrong.
One of the things to work at NASA, you have to read the fine print, I think. Isn't that right, Martin?
That's exactly right. And you sound just like the co-pilot. Pilot, pay attention to where you're going.
Roger, Dan.
So there's that eyesight. There's that eyesight coming in again. I'm not sure I would.
Board.
Okay, so let's check out H1 and see if that's okay. No, so we've got G1 and let's go with
C5 would be
C5.
awesome. F6 would be great.
G1.
Yeah.
So G1, C5, A6 looks good. Let's do A6. All right, let's run that and see how that runs.
There you go, Dan. It didn't. I would have gone with J3. Probably. Yeah. You didn't ask though, so didn't ask your co-pilot.
So sorry, Martin. So I'm assuming like the eyesight requirements are still 20/20 or better for the astronaut corps.
I'm not certain. It may be different for when you're a pilot or a commander that flies it. I know they have astronauts who have corrected vision. They have. They're wearing glasses.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. You know, I've probably seen hundreds of pictures of astronauts on the shuttle and International Space Station missions and never noticed that they were wearing glasses before. So, yeah, maybe I could go as a systems. What do you call that? A mission specialist or something, where you concentrate on one thing.
That's right. They called them on shuttle, right? Mission specialists.
I like Denzel had a couple questions. He's just asking about like what the future of people actually living in space is. Is that maybe a long-term mission? We're talking about all the ones in the next couple of years, but what's the long-term kind of vision?
Obviously, the long-term, we'll be on the moon, developing the technologies, learning how to live there, maybe learning how to extract water and turn it into propellant. The longer-term goal is in the 2030s to send the first people to Mars. Again, that will be probably could be a land and come back, but it's a very harsh environment and it will not be easy to settle there. But there are a lot of people, a lot of companies interested in doing exactly that.
Dan, you are collecting ice in this one. Over.
That's right. So in this particular one, yeah, I'm doing actually what you guys were just talking about, which is drilling down and collecting some samples here. So this is a multiplayer one, so I don't know if it'll be successful for me or not because I'm the only one in it. It did detect that I was the only one in it, so it's allowing me to do the multiplayer even without a partner. So that's good.
Yeah.
Does it say how many liters you're actually collecting? Trying to help here.
All right, I'm gonna try this one up here now. Looks like a lunar rover.
And NASA is working on rovers. There are three, as you said, there are 3 rovers on the moon now. NASA's working on a pressurized rover, which will be unlike the rovers there, which are sort of convertibles. The pressurized rover will be one that you can drive in your shirt sleeves, and then maybe have your spacesuit attached to the outside, and you just crawl into it, detached from the side of the vehicle, and go walking around the moon.
That's really awesome. I sure enjoyed the Martian and all the talk when he was in the Martian and trying to keep it, talking about the heat and how you had to do all these things. I mean, it was fiction, obviously, but that was great. The fiction's gotten better. When I was a kid, it was Total Recall when it was like, we're going to convert the atmosphere. I mean, change the Mars. Like, just really not realistic. Get
one of my favorite movies is still 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, yeah.
Indeed. Yeah.
Subhan's asking how well you get along. What kind of employees are there that you work with, and how well do you get along with them?
I get along. I hope I get along great with them. They are very smart, and I think everybody really is dedicated to helping each other. When we need, we could not do our jobs separately. We have to have all of us together to do our jobs. And that teamwork aspect of it is really appealing, to be able to work with, people who believe in the same thing you believe and are working hard toward a common goal. And when it's space flight and exploration, it's almost an easy job.
Yeah, do you still feel that going all the time? Like that same sense of wonder that you had when you're like looking around and what you can see and who you're talking to? That must be awesome.
To sit in a meeting and listen to some of the quote rocket scientists talk, it is better than a movie.
So cool. Dan, I'd really love to try multiplayer before we.
Do you want to try that one more time?
Yeah, I've signed back in as the you're a trainer 1, mentor 139. So that's not the one you're in as. Was that maybe the issue?
No, I was in the one that you were in as. So something went wrong there. So we can try. We can certainly try again.
I think we should. Just to show
Do you guys compete or collaborate in a multiplayer game?
So this one is in particular, it's collaboration. So I would be doing one part of the mission, which would be moving the rover to specific locations and taking pictures. And then Darren would be drilling and taking samples at those locations. So we'd have to confer back and forth. Like I have D5, E5, and H1. Darren, do you have those? And then he would put those into his area of coding and be able to do that side of it.
Yeah,
that is again incredibly realistic feature of this game.
Yeah, so we'll try that out. This might be something that's a challenge, but if teachers are using Minecraft and they're using some multiplayer, that might be something they're used to. There's a lot of collaboration in Minecraft. And I love it. One of the things I like the best is the talk that happens when students are playing Minecraft and the collaboration that they're doing. They build together. Okay.
So do you want me or am I sharing or are you sharing?
I think you should host, and I'm going to try to join you. And as long as we're in the different account. Oh, sorry, I'm in as one of your mentor accounts, Dan.
Oh, okay. So I will save and exit, and I will log out and log back in again.
And our fingers will be crossed.
Failure is not an option.
Not in this, but generally with Minecraft, the fail principle is the first attempt in learning is pretty powerful here. That's how we.
Well, that's true. As we said in the last time we did this, failure is a good thing. You learn more from one failure than 10,000 successes. Somebody famous said that.
That's great. One of the early questions was how many people have been into space, and I wonder if someone's kept track of that. That's almost a Dan question.
That's a lot. If I mean, U.S. and Russian astronauts alone, I mean, you're talking hundreds and hundreds at this point, I think.
Wow.
Okay, through the magic of the internet, as of May 2022, people from 44 countries have traveled in space. 622 have reached our orbit. 628 have reached the altitude of space, which is a little lower. It's like some of the recent commercial flights that come back, that go up and come straight back instead of orbiting.
Yeah, but to date, we've only had a handful on the moon. That was 2 per Apollo mission from Apollo 11 to 17, with the exception of Apollo 13. So it's
12 people.
Yeah, 12.
You guys, great.
I'm glad we're in a computer so people can see us using our fingers. Yeah,
good.
Glad there hadn't been more. We'd have to take off our shoes.
I've still got the same problem, Darren.
Is it because we're both signed in as the same account, or no?
No, we're signed in as different accounts.
Well, darn.
So, I mean, that is a good thing to mention here, is that sometimes the multiplayer does glitch out for reasons. I mean, I am here in Scotland and you are in Alberta, so there's plenty that could be going wrong in between right now for that not to work out quite so well. And it does happen occasionally. All right, so I'm just going to go back in there and maybe see if I can run another mission here.
Yeah.
before we run out of time, because I think we're down to about 10 minutes or so now.
You can let us know, student. You can pause. Which missions have you done? Did anyone try doing a multiplayer and joining with a friend? You could have up to 4. But you can do a lot of the solo missions. And then the computer does some of that work for you if you're doing the... If you have any Minecraft questions for Dan, too, he's a Minecraft builder. That's what he does. Right, Roger, Dan. Do some G-Force.
Okay. All right, just give me a second here. All right. I mean, I could hang out in this crew capsule all day here.
Are you guys seeing how many where all the students are from? Because it's worth noting that the Orion service module is provided by the European Space Agency. So,
oh, really?
It's not just a European program, and NASA has agreements that there will be Canadians flying on future Artemis missions.
That's right.
So,
I mean, we're very proud of our Canadarm. Is there anything similar on the Orion mission? Is there anything? Maybe
the Gateway is going to have a Canadarm on it.
Yeah, all right.
I mean, they've come in leaps and jumps over the years. Like I remember the original one on the space shuttle was anchored to the shuttle. The one on the International Space Station basically has, if I remember correctly, hands on both ends, so it's able to latch on and move around the station. It's almost like this independent. Well, it is an independent kind of robot that can move around and do all sorts of amazing work. So I'm assuming that Gateway would have a similar robot arm.
I don't know. Gateway will not be as large, but yeah, they have done a lot of advances. In fact, it sounds a little bit like the Terminator.
Yeah. That's a good point, though, Martin. We have students from Granada Hills, California, from Scarborough, Ontario, from Morrisonville, Illinois. So we're really covering North America today.
All right, so I'm just doing this one really quickly again, doing the Lunar legless, so I can get to maybe one of the other multiplayer missions really quickly. So I'm going to move my agent over by 1, move my agent down
Plant a seed.
3. Plant seed. And then move over by 2. Plant seed. I would be very interested in trying food that had been planted on the moon. It'd be interesting. Just to see if there's any, difference in flavor. Because I know, like, if I plant like a tomato plant or a carrot in my back garden with really good dirt, I'll end up with, a really nice tasting vegetable. But if I plant it in just some, scrap stuff that I've got lying around and I don't really give it enough water or enough sunlight, it'll end up, not the best tasting vegetable. So I'm interested to see how things will turn out on the lunar surface.
Maybe it'll taste like green cheese. Hey, late breaking, fellas, and for all you students out there, NASA and the Canadian Space Agency will announce the 4-person crew for Artemis 2 that will orbit the moon and come back on April 3rd.
Whoa.
It's close.
Yep.
Right. I like the Aurora. We've done that. You got the most. Oh, there's the food one, Dan. You can.
All right, we'll do the food one.
Let's get some space pizza going.
Okay.
This is Dan's second attempt at this, where we definitely want to rehydrate.
Rehydrate. All right. So next, cooking Earth and it's different. You have to rehydrate the food. Water. Tonight is pizza. All right.
Extra mushrooms, please.
Definitely.
Oh, man.
So we've got
actually
tomatoes there.
We're very proud of the Canadarm. The other thing that a Canadian invented is Hawaiian pizza. Believe it or not, pineapples. That was a Canadian.
I did not know that. Does that have spam on it?
No, it doesn't.
Ham
Hawaiian is
and
the-
pineapple.
Ham and pineapple.
I do like a Hawaiian pizza, actually. I do like it.
It's called Hawaiian, but it was a Canadian invention.
Okay, so all right, so I need to add tomato sauce, or tomato sauce as you guys would call it, cheese and pepperoni. So we are adding, there's that. Add cheese. Add pepperoni. And serve pizza. Oh, no. Here we go. So I'm just going to read over those instructions again to make sure I've got it right. So I don't, disappoint our astronauts in orbit here.
You can't send a pizza back from the moon.
No. And the food has really improved over the years. Is that correct, Martin? Like I remember back in the early 60s, like everything was just in tubes.
Yeah,
And
it was
then
like
on the space station today, it's like they've got all sorts of options. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Back in the day, in the 60s and 70s, it was basically like baby food, strained peas in a toothpaste tube.
Oh, wow.
And now they've got stuff that's pretty, freeze-dried foods that can be rehydrated and heated, and nothing gourmet, but still pretty good compared to the old days.
If this doesn't work down, this will be my most disappointed. Okay.
All right, we did it.
We get pizza.
You
Awesome.
know,
So really-
one thing I've learned since moving back to Scotland here is that there are some interesting choices for people. They put, I don't know about, I've never seen this in Canada or the US, but they put corn on pizza here, which quite honestly I find a bit odd.
Well, it's two starches together.
It doesn't strike me as something that I would put on pizza. Corn. I'm not sure about that.
You're giving me a great idea down here in the South for maybe cornbread pizza.
Oh, that I would try. That would be, cornbread is delicious.
Oh, cool. Caden's telling us the class broke up into groups of 4 to do the missions, and it worked for them.
Oh,
So
that's
it's unusual.
awesome.
Fantastic. And what I love about that is just the way it's collaborative and interactive. So it's if you got that going, that's fantastic. Thanks for letting us know, Caden. Because I really enjoyed that. I don't know why ours wasn't going. So Tom saying Tang, get some Tang in space. That's really great.
Tang actually came along before NASA, so that's sort of an urban myth.
All right. Okay. I'm really happy some students got to experience the multiplayer collaborative version of it.
But there are lots of things that have come out of the space program that
including
were
what
not
you're
necessarily.
talking into right now.
Yeah.
Miniaturized computer circuits and solid state circuits that were developed because you couldn't carry big heavy weights into space, so they had to miniaturize everything.
Yeah, so many offshoots of Apollo technology have come out over the years. What we're holding in our hands today, I think, is in part attributed to a lot of that knowledge that we gained during the Apollo program.
A lot of healthcare stuff like monitoring for premature infants and that sort of thing. A lot of medical technology too.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, that has been our hour and 15 minutes. I don't think we have time to finish this coding, Dan, unless you're
okay.
Really but we should probably get back, and I've got the slides up, and we can just. So thanks, everybody. We really have to thank NASA. We'd like to thank Martin for being here with us today for another awesome space mission and all the information. It's so great to meet you and to hang out. We really hope we can do more of these because it's so fantastic what NASA's done with these programs and education. And that's just so fantastic. So big thank you to NASA. Big thank you to Martin. Big thank you to Minecraft Education for just having this world that students can play and collaborate and do all these great missions. So return to the moon. Martin, any final thoughts?
A big thank you to Minecraft for putting this together because it really is in so many ways very similar to the Artemis missions and the missions NASA's planning for the future, like Mars and asteroids. So, and I appreciate the students tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dan, for all your space knowledge. I've never met anyone with so many trivia facts. I want to get down on my trivia team next time we play space trivia or anything. I'll do the music portion. You can do the space portion, I think.
Spot on.
Yeah, so we had a lot of schools and students joining us. Michelle might know how many in in total were viewing live. But thank you so much.